everybody. Welcome back to OTT Executive Podcast. I'm Brian Mahoney, your host. I am the CEO of Trend Research and the president of the 55,000 plus OTT executive community. I'm thrilled to continue these conversations with leaders of the industry. And today I'm joined by Ray Nutt, the CEO of Fathom Entertainment. Welcome, Ray.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Well, this is great. I started this podcast series with the goal of sort of personalizing and getting to know some of the leaders in the industry. And what I found is our audience really loves to know how you kind of got to where you are today. So let's jump right into that. If you can just talk about your career background, and then we'll kind of, jump forward to the present day.
Sure, be happy to do that. So we're actually headquartered in Colorado, and I can kind of tell you how I ended up being here. I've spent most of my life actually in Colorado. Grew up in Illinois, graduated from Illinois State University, and right out of school moved out here and got a job in insurance actually. And I spent some time in insurance and healthcare, cable television. And then that led me to the theatrical distribution business, or the theatrical business in general, because I've been both on the exhibition side of the business for the majority of my career, and now for the past 8 years over here at Fathom. But I've always been intrigued by the entertainment industry. There's been a lot of changes in the industry over the years and so forth, and it's been very good for us, and we're Fathom is a leader in the industry and helping the industry move forward. So that's a little bit about my background.
That's awesome. And so, Colorado, when did you move to Colorado? And was that specifically for this job?
No, it wasn't for this job. I had a job working for a captive insurance company owned by Caterpillar dealerships, believe it or not. So quite a bit of difference between looking at cat equipment and doing risk management work on the insurance side for cat, and then moving into the entertainment business. But I have to tell you, just from a career perspective, the positions that I've held in the areas of risk management probably prepared me, unbeknownst to me at the time, prepared me for the day-to-day decisions and strategic decisions that I have to make for this company moving forward. So very valuable experience on the risk management side. Healthcare side was wonderful as well. Cable television also, which kind of led me into this. Worked for United Artists Entertainment Company, which was 56% owned by TCI. So that was the connection with cable television. So it was John Malone's company, and worked for him for several years. And then when TCI spun off the theater assets, I decided to stay on the theater side and work in theater exhibition for a number of different years.
hmm Very cool. It's funny. I came out of the cable industry as well as a technology vendor, working with folks like Juniper Networks. And then, people don't remember, a lot of people don't remember, this started from this concept of triple play and IPTV, and video over IP was like, cutting edge. And then, yeah, and fast forward to where we are today. It's crazy. But before we get into the industry stuff, let's cover your current purview, the CEO of Fathom Entertainment. I know you run the company, but are there particular areas that you focus on? Tell us a little bit about your current job.
Well, Fathom is a very interesting business. We actually started this business years ago. I helped form a couple of different companies. National Cinemedia was one. And back in the day, all of the theatrical business was, I'm going to age myself right here, was
No
35
worries.
millimeter. And so everything was being delivered, basically by film
Mhm.
and hard film, physical film. And then so we decided to go ahead and start a couple of companies that financed and also delivered content to movie theaters digitally. And so we formed a company called DCIP that financed it. We formed a company called DCDC that actually delivered the content via satellite to movie theaters. And that really changed the scope of the entire industry at that point. And it gave us some more flexibility to do things like events in theaters, live performances in theaters that we actually continue to do now. And so it's really, really evolved. But At this point, we've just rebranded the company actually at the beginning of this year because we used to be specifically or strictly an events cinema company doing one or two nights of events, and now we're a specialty distribution company, and we renamed ourselves and rebranded ourselves from Fathom Events to Fathom Entertainment. What that means is that we're doing a lot more special engagements out there. So we've become actually the 10th largest distributor of content to
Mm.
movie theaters in North America right now. So the company's grown significantly. We've grown 45 and 48% year over year for the last 2 years. It's a sector of the business that, while other sectors are struggling a little bit, this one is
Mhm.
actually thriving significantly. So
Healthy margins
um,
and growth. That's great.
yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
it's
It's funny, Ray, you mentioned the transition from 35 millimeter film. So that's back in the day when you physically had to deliver, right, the film to the theater so they could put them on projectors and stuff, right? Is
yeah,
that what we're talking
yeah.
about?
Each
Okay.
each print costs roughly about $2,300 to deliver to a theater, and it had to be physically put together and assembled in the theater with trailers and the feature presentation and any advertising that was done.
Yeah, you get scissors
And
and
you know,
tape and like that's crazy. That's funny because I just realized there's a parallel to Netflix, right? Back in DVDs by mail, physical media moving towards, digital media. I mean, you sort of went through that same transition.
Yeah, we did, and if you look at what's going on in the streaming industry right now, and looking back at my cable days, streaming is nothing more, in my opinion, than I shouldn't say nothing more. It's quite a bit
Mhm.
more, but it's cable on steroids. They're going through
Mhm.
the same processes that cable went through. Cable was a little bit slower, and streaming just speeds things up a little bit. But yeah, converting to digital helped us with advertising, helped us with events, helped us with movies, trailers, any kind of content. Like I said, live content that goes into movie theaters. It was quite the thing.
So interesting. How long ago was the rebrand of Fathom Entertainment?
We started thinking about that process. It was about a year and a half ago, but we actually just physically rebranded the company at the beginning of this year. So we're
Okay.
we're we're fairly new at that.
And how's it going so far?
It's going great. I mean, we've attracted a lot of content that we normally wouldn't have. We're competing with a lot of the major studios for content out there, and we're still an event cinema company, so everything we're doing is incremental. But you're seeing more of your revenue per title go through the roof. And back prior to the pandemic, we were doing about 150 different titles a year, mostly events. Today we're doing less than 100, but the revenue per title has gone through the ceiling based on distributing special engagements.
So it's funny because my audience generally, it's sort of described as media entertainment with a heavy focus on streaming. So some people might thinking, okay, what's the connection here? But I work with clients all the time, helping them with media, with their distribution strategies. And if you think about this concept of windowing, right, working with Fathom Entertainment is one option, right, to build audience, to monetize your content. Talk about that a little bit, like the larger strategy. If I own, if I have rights to, let's say, a movie or something, and I want to work with you in sort of relative to my other options, like what does that conversation look like?
So Fathom actually licenses the IP from the IP owners, from the licensors. And then what we end up doing is licensing it theatrically for a specific period of time. We are owned by AMC, Regal, and Cinemark, which are the three largest theater operators in the world. So you mentioned windows, and that's very, very a sensitive subject between Hollywood and exhibition,
Oh, interesting.
obviously,
True. Right.
especially coming out of the pandemic where streaming took off when everybody was at home and the movie theaters were closed. So windowing is very, very important, and so we look for at least a 30-day window from when the picture is released, the film is released in our theaters until the time it hits, some kind of downstream, whether that's PVOD or whatever.
Hmm.
But I will tell you the producers and the folks that we work with love theatrical distribution because it obviously helps them with their downstream as well, and that's where they're monetizing most of the content at the end of the day. So We're a marketing machine out there. We're an end-to-end solution at Fathom. We offer programming, marketing, operations, finance, accounting. So we book theaters, we collect money, we send it to our content providers and our theater operators. So it is a one-stop shop end-to-end solution for us.
And there's something magical about the theater, right? We still haven't lost that. People love to go into the theater, sit in those comfy seats with a giant screen and surround sound and box of popcorn, right? There's something magical about that.
There is, and if you look at how diverse our content is, look at our website at fathomentertainment.com. You start looking, we've got everything from arts with the Metropolitan Opera, which we're about ready to launch our 19th season with them. That's
Wow.
live from the Madhouse in New York. To anime, to faith-based content, to classic movies, to live content. And it was very interesting coming out of the pandemic because those genres that I just mentioned are very diverse out there.
Yes.
And if you had audiences that were a little bit slower to come back because the Met audience is a little bit older, so they were a little more concerned about coming out, getting out of the house and coming back to the movie theater. But then you had classic movies and you had anime content, and those audiences were very quick to come back to the
Mhm.
theater. And then you had faith
Mhm.
content because people wanted to gather communally. They've been,
Mhm.
locked up in their house and everything. So it was very interesting to continue to watch this evolution of audience behaviors and how they come back to the theater. But the one thing that you mentioned, Brian, it's the communal experience that they
Mhm.
like there, and that keeps them coming back to theater. We just come off a run with Sound of Music 60th anniversary and put
I
that in the
saw that. I
theater.
didn't get to get in there. Is that
Yes.
that's not the window's closed, right?
So it's coming out of theaters now, but I can tell you it was a huge success. And there's a movie that you can see on television. There's a lot of classics that we do, but people get off their couch and come to the
Yep.
movie theater because they want to see it the way that their folks saw it, their grandparents saw it. Maybe they want to take their grandchildren to see it the way that they saw it. So
Mhm.
it's pretty magical.
That is pretty magical. I'm working with one client and they're sort of a faith-based film, and that challenge between, okay, are we just going to sign up churches and get a camera, projection camera, whatever, and have people in the basement or the church hall or whatever, or are we going to go to the theater, right? Like we're going to load up a bus and go on that adventure and everything. And obviously, you know the answer there. But how about the genres? Are there any particular genres where you have particular traction? Are there some that this format doesn't work for them? Maybe talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that faith-based has been extremely popular with us, and I can tell you that we started this concept years and years ago, pursuing this particular category. And this is a category that years ago was quite frankly shunned by Hollywood. If you were an actor or an actress and you starred in a faith-based film, you were pretty much pigeonholed into that
Mhm.
category and you weren't going to do anything else. That has totally changed. We also, I'll tell you, one of our most successful things that we've ever done, we've launched, people may have heard of The Chosen.
I see
Uh,
the poster right behind you on the wall there,
okay.
right over
So
your shoulder.
so an episodic, and
Yeah.
episodics have never been done in movie theaters before. And we just came off a run earlier this year where season five, we broadcasted or I should say, distributed all five or eight episodes of season five, and ended up doing $44 million at the box office. So very loyal crowd
Hmm.
comes back to see, one episode right after another in the movie
Hmm.
theaters. That's a good example of people wanting to gather communally there. They'd rather do that than, and by the way, The Chosen has a free app where you can actually see it
Hmm.
free, on your phone or computer or whatever. And people chose to pay money to go see it with other people in the movie theater. So it's a very good example of what you brought up about the communal
Hmm.
experience.
It's interesting because I remember when you first started doing that, I was thinking that's brilliant, or The Chosen was doing that. And I think initially it was premieres and maybe finales, but you're saying all episodes now, and that works, and the theaters are full.
Yeah, we started off slow with them because I have to tell you, when I went to my board and said, listen, I want to do a faith-based episodic thing called The Chosen in movie theaters. I need you to help me book this in theaters. They looked at me like I had three heads. And so we ended up starting slow. We did like the first couple of episodes, so we bookended it, the first two and then the last two, so episodes 1 and 2 and 7 and 8.
Yep.
And then that developed into, they saw how that did draw an audience and was very successful. And then we went to The Chosen. We said, can we, finally in season 4, we did all 8 episodes. And then in season 5, we did all 8 episodes as well. So it's been a great franchise for us. It's been a little over 120 $20 million rather, I think, total with everything we've done with them. And they're
Hmm.
very happy with us. And
I
obviously
bet. I
audiences
bet.
are happy too.
That's it. Is that Come and See Foundation?
Yes.
Or yeah, okay, I figured that. So one of the things that struck me about The Chosen is I read somewhere it's the most translated bit of content in history, something like 600 languages, which is just remarkable. I didn't even know we had that many languages. Can you talk about your international strategy a little bit? Obviously, getting access to this content, globally is very important for a brand like The Chosen. Is that part of your growth strategy?
It is. Last year we did Andrea Bocelli's. We celebrated his 30th anniversary. It was filmed a year ago, July in Italy. Very beautifully done and everything. Had a lot of guests join him, Shania Twain, and just all kinds of very diverse audience. Ed
Hmm.
Sheeran. And we distributed that. We captured it and we distributed that into over 40 territories around the world, and just went over very, very well. Box office was about equal internationally than it was domestically as well. So
Hmm.
very nice balance between domestic and international there.
Hmm.
And we got a couple of other things that international is important to us.
Okay.
International on the business side of it, on the economic side, is very different than it is
Hmm.
domestically. Theater operators tend to want to take more of the box office there, which erodes the margins. So you got to be very careful in terms of how you're
Hmm.
marketing, how much you're spending over there versus over here. You have to be very careful everywhere, but
Yep.
a little bit more careful because the pie is a little bit smaller over there. But we have a Broadway musical coming out called Merrily We Roll Along, which won several different awards, Tony Awards. And that stars Daniel Radcliffe, so the old Harry Potter and everything. And it's off Broadway now, but it's an example of a capture that we do, and we're distributing that into numerous territories around the world
Mhm.
as well, because that will play very, very well, obviously in Europe, but several other places also.
It's interesting because there's a lot of parallels to the general entertainment industry, and viewer acquisition is one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest costs. I saw for some content, it could be $200 just to acquire a viewer. And, if you're a subscription-based model, they churn, they bounce around, and that's a big challenge. But when you're tapping into communities or affinity content, right, you're tapping into the community already, right? You're tapping into their social, their marketing, their viewer acquisition, and their ability to draw people to those theaters. Is there anything you do or need to do to magnify that, right? Or is that just kind of comes part and parcel to that community you're working with?
Well, our first off, Fathom team here does a wonderful job. And before we ever green light a project, we do a lot of research in terms of what the audience is. Is there
Hmm.
an audience? Can we sell tickets? And surprisingly, there's some things that are popular that don't sell tickets, and then there are other things like The Chosen that a lot of people had never heard of years ago that do. But our marketing department does a wonderful job, and there's really a three-legged stool to success with any content that we do, and I think it's three parties actually. It's the content provider who knows their audience very well. It's Fathom, and we learn about the audiences and then market to them, and then it's the theater exhibitor as well. We go
Hmm.
to the theater exhibitor and say, well, what is a like movie that you've done out here before? We just come off a run with Harry Potter. We're doing one with Twilight and Spider-Man and franchise films. Well, they have their loyalty programs that are out there, and we partner with them to say, okay, who is the exact audience or a like audience, and
Hmm.
they bring that to the table. So that three-legged stool when everybody comes to the table, and by the way, our business model is all based on a rev share at the box office. So every those three parties I mentioned, Fathom with content and with theater operators, they all benefit from somebody buying a movie ticket. That keeps
Mhm.
them motivated in terms of the marketing and knowing their audience and making sure that we're distributing, acquiring and distributing content that's right for that community.
So it's a partnership. You have shared success in the outcome. So
Yep.
that's brilliant. Sounds like a great formula, and it's working for you very well. So Ray, I'd ask you to kind of swim upstream a little bit and put your industry hat on, and just any thoughts about where things are with the media and entertainment industry. Obviously, a lot of people talk about fragmentation that's been brought about on streaming. We already talked a little bit about windowing. How do you see things evolving over the next few years as an industry?
Well, clearly, I've been in this industry for almost 40 years now. So, we've seen cable television, we've seen DVDs, we've seen, everything that was going to put movie theaters, for example, out of business. And the theater business just continues to, thrive. And
Right.
you face obstacles like the pandemic,
Mm.
writer's strike, one thing after another. And it just keeps going. And I think it gets back to your point that people continue to like to go to movie theaters. Now, I would tell you with regard to movie theaters, clearly the industry is not what it was prior to the pandemic.
Right.
The streaming and everything was it couldn't have launched at a better time for them.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, some of the same people that actually view streaming are avid moviegoers. I mean, statistically, it tells you that as well. So those folks do watch do watch a lot of TV at home, but they do go to the movie theater also. So I'm bullish. Obviously, I've seen a lot of ups and downs throughout the years and everything like that. I'm bullish about our sector, to be honest with you, because it is a sector that obviously has grabbed a lot of attention with that kind. You won't see 45 and 48% year over year growth in many of the other
It's
sectors
amazing.
in the
Yeah.
in the industry in general.
Right.
But I mentioned before, just like cable and years ago, that streaming is on, steroids. I do look at, you start looking at subscriber acquisition. That was a strategy in cable years ago. That certainly is what they're doing now. You start looking at consolidation. That's going to
Mhm.
happen as well. That happened in the cable industry. So it's remarkable how like that model is with cable, with what's going to go on with streaming and continue to go on with streaming, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But we're very, very happy with where we're at. Our little slice of the industry right now is going very, very well, and the outlook is very, very positive.
Yeah, I was going to ask just one more question about your business model. You mentioned live performances. What percentage or, of your business is that growing? And are there any unique challenges or opportunities to delivering live content to theaters?
So I mentioned the Metropolitan Opera, and we're in our 19th season. That's probably one of the things that we're known for. And it used to be more than 50% of our revenue, but we've diversified. It's still a
Okay.
very successful product, but we've diversified so much, it's less than 10% of our revenue right now.
Interesting. Wow.
But
Okay.
we've done a lot of sports,
Mhm.
different sports. Sports can be challenging because of the rights issues that
Mhm.
broadcasters and cable companies and others pay for the rights. So I can remember the day when that most of those rights contracts were very silent to theatrical,
Mhm.
and now they're very careful to make sure they put something in there about theatrical, either that it's allowed or you have to get approval for it and that type of thing. So it tells me we're making a bit of a splash on this side of the fence, and it's being addressed, but all good.
They're paying attention. That's great. Well, Ray, one of the things we like to do on this podcast is to sort of personalize some of the luminaries in the industry and get to know a little bit about you. Is there a personal hobby or interest you can share with our audience?
when I have time, I guess. I I uh, I do like the outdoors. I live in Colorado.
Oh yeah,
In the summer, I enjoy fly fishing. Some great trout fishing here up in the mountains. I have a ranch up there and like to disappear on weekends and just get out of the truck and listen to the stream and that type of thing. And in the winter, I do enjoy, my wife and I enjoy skiing quite a bit. So we're half hour from Breckenridge up there. So it's a nice, easy trek over there. But I enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy running to try to stay halfway in shape. It's getting harder and harder as you get older. But I enjoy that and just spending as much time with my family as I can. I have two adult children that live within five. We're very blessed, lived within 5 miles of us, and
nice.
both have families, so we spend a lot of time with them as well.
Have grandkids then?
One grandkid, yeah, one
Nice.
grandkid so far. Yeah.
That's great. Can I ask you? So I'm not an avid fisherman, but I enjoy fishing. My kids really do. I've never tried fly fishing, but I maybe it's because I haven't tried it, but I just picture myself, casting the fly, the line, whatever, and getting all tangled up in it, and I'm just like, and then I get tied up in knots and like, does that ever happen? Like, how has fly fishing become such this Zen activity? Like, oh, fly fishing. For me, I don't know. Maybe I would just mess it up, or I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
My best advice would be I self-learned. So I learned by, looking online with how to tie a fly and the different
Okay.
types of flies and different things like that. But I can tell you when the wind gets howling out there, you can catch a fly in the back of your ear or the back
Yeah.
of your coat, and the line can get tangled up pretty easily. But it's part of the challenge of being out there and everything, and it's just so peaceful listening to the water and everything. And hey, if you catch some, fine. If you don't, you're still out there having some fun, and it's very relaxing. So. But you got to get out here, Brian. Get out here to Colorado. I'll take you out. So, but my
All right.
advice.
Yeah. I'll take you up. I've been out there a few times. I have some friends. One thing I do remember is you can hit a golf ball a long way, in that thin Colorado air. It was very flattering. I really enjoyed that part.
It is mile high, and you see the Broncos being broadcast, and some of the visiting teams, or the Avalanche, and on the ice and everything, or basketball with the Nuggets, and it does take its toll. But golf, it's one club difference. So it's if you hit a seven, you probably be hitting an eight here. So
Yeah, I found it took me it took me a few holes to realize to stop hitting over the green, right? Because I'm like, wow, this just travels. And when
yeah.
it's when it's dry too, it rolls on the ground a long way too. Well, listen, Ray, I really appreciated this time getting to know you a little bit better. Good luck at Fathom Entertainment. Congrats on the rebrand. Sounds like growth is great. You play an increasingly important role for the larger media and entertainment industry as another way to get your content out there, to make some money, to build audience and build brands. So kudos to you and your team.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and your viewers and get to learn a little bit more about a sector of the industry that we're passionate about. So thanks a lot.
Awesome. Great. Well, listen, again, this is Brian Mahoney, moderator for the OTT Executive Podcast, signing off. I've been joined by Ray Nutt from Fathom Entertainment. Ray, thanks again.
Okay, Brian. Have a good one.
Have a great day, everybody. Signing off.